And Judge refused to give a legal living training.
Somebody's got an open mic.
Just grab it.
Okay, we will call to order the April 24th, 2025 board meeting for the Lake Women Conservancy District. Before we get going though, I've got some announcements to make. So hopefully everybody has seen the email or has seen it posted on the LLC website that we are not going to be doing any voting today on the wake surfing issue, but we are going to be gathering information. Okay, so we got a lot of input from folks, some pretty good ideas, in terms of perhaps designated areas, designated times, that sort of thing. And later on today, Ross is going to give us a little rundown, just some background information. We are going to do a board discussion, and we're going to do the public comment a little bit different this time, because I know this is a controversial issue and we got two sides of the fence here and so on, and we want everybody to be able to have full and open comments and stuff. And so, normally we ask for comments ahead of time, but since we're just going to be discussing this, we will have a special comment period after the board has done their discussion. And so based on, what you've seen online and maybe some of your own research, some of your own ideas, and also what we talk about, if you wish to react to that, then you can do your comments at that point. However, I am going to enforce a 3-minute rule on that. How many people think they're gonna, speak today? Yeah, okay. All right, so I'll apologize in advance if I cut you off and that offends you, but I am going to cut you off. I'll give you a little notice, 30 seconds, for you to wrap it up. Now, the thing is, if you've got more to say, or you've got an idea that's going to take more than 3 minutes to convey to us, then by all means, I would encourage you to submit it in writing. And you can submit it to all of us board members to take a look at it, or if you want to just send it to the office and have them send it out, that's fine. So you will have a chance to do that. In fact, that it could be better because it gives us more detail and stuff. So I just wanted to give you ahead of time, give you a little notice ahead of time that we will limit things to 30 seconds. Okay. Let's see.
But for you are going to be public comment.
Yeah,
for
just a second.
non-wakeboard issues.
Yeah.
If you come for something else, we want to take those at the beginning.
And I'll get to that. And also, you may be wondered, where's Adam? Okay, well, Adam's busy with his wife welcoming a new baby to the world. So we do wish the best for mom, baby, and dad, and so on. That is why he is absent tonight, and a little higher priority thing going on, Okay, so we'll get to that in a bit. But as Deb mentioned, is there anybody here that has comments on anything that is not related to the wake surfing issue? If there is, step on up and tell us who you are and what area you live in and what would you like to talk about?
In South District 4, I just, everybody might know that last week there was an incident, if you will, of a airboat going down the middle of the lake at 2 in the morning.
I heard it. Doing
bow fishing apparently. And there was some online discussion that got pretty nasty from some people. But I wondered what the board's or what the lake's position was on airboats, and especially airboats going around the lake shore at 2 in the morning.
Don't forget the bright lights.
Yes,
With the
that
bright
too.
lights. So,
Yeah, that too. Okay, thank you. Okay.
My husband and I own property on another lake in upstate New York where the restrictions, Martha Dumont, in section 5.
Thank you.
And the restrictions on the septic tank testing and fines and what's allowed is extremely strict there. But at our property here on Lake Lemon, it seems to be extremely loose. And I was inquiring about what are the rules, what testing is performed, and what results have been.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think Ross is gonna be addressing that a little bit. So, okay, any other comments on issues unrelated to wake surfing? Okay, so with that being the case, we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. And that is the approval of the board meeting minutes from February 27th. Does anyone have any edits, corrections, changes? You're all good? Someone? Did I hear something?
I move your meeting.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have moved and seconded, so February 27th meetings, yeah, minutes, what? Oh, we have to vote on it, sorry. All right, so all in favor?
District 5.
Any opposed? Same sign, no?
Hey, Mike.
How about Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, I approve.
okay, thank you.
Mike, are you in a position where you can turn your camera on?
I thought I had it on.
I see you.
You must be in a dark room.
I've got start video, I got mute. Let's see. I don't know what else I can do. Let's see, hang on a second.
And all these other times.
Just open door law says we have to be able to see and hear you.
That is not true. Is Steve Warner in there? He'll tell you. Let's see. I don't know. I have no. I'm here. I'm here, but do I need to sign in?
I'd
You there?
say we proceed, we'll just proceed and we'll make believe we can see you.
Well,
Okay, all right, so board election results are the next item. And I guess
If
there
we
are,
want, we can go to the treasury stuff. I don't have an issue with that.
Oh,
I just wanted to put this as soon as possible so that we are moving forward with as full of a board as we can.
oh, okay, so they're still counting? Must be a lot of votes.
Believe so.
Okay,
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 well, I
go
can
ahead.
cover the February, March financials and the claims pretty quickly. If you look at the February financial statements in your packet, we have about $48,000 in our general fund. We have a total in our checking savings of about 1,001,250,000. And only about $182,000 in our construction fund. With the cost of fixed assets, we have overall assets of $1,861,000. Liability side, minor payroll withholding, and then our bonds payable of $975,000. For the month of February, we took in about $15,000 in sublease fees. So that our total income was 21,600. Our total expense was 20,991. So we actually had a little bit of a profit, surprisingly, for February of $598. I think just looking at I think it's page 13 in your PDF, just February 25 compared to 24. The thing that really sticks out there is that we must have gotten paid earlier on a lot more of our subleases, and that'll catch us up in March because we had about $10,000 more in the prior year than we did this February. And then we also had other income of like 33.2, and that was from the sale of the excavator and the dozer, and that was in the prior year. Any questions or comments on February financial statements? I don't really think it's much value to look at comparison to budget at this point. And so I guess on the claims, I need an approval for the February claims totaling $14,434.96. $9,716 was payroll related, and then we just had minor other claims that we paid for $47.18. And I think the biggest part there, I think we had $2,000 that we spent, for printing, passes and gate tickets and things like that. That was our largest expense. So could I have any questions or comments? Motion to approve the February claims?
So I will make a motion to approve.
second.
Okay, it has been motioned and approved, and so we'll call for a vote. All in favor, signal aye.
Aye.
Mike?
I approve.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries.
I'll move on to the March financials then. As of March 31st, we had $251,815 in our general fund. Total checking and savings of $1,125,000 approximately. Same cost in our fixed assets. Bonds payable haven't changed. Minor withholding liabilities. But this is where in the income side, we had $31,517 in income, and we took in $16,405 in the sublease fees, so we kind of made up for it there. Overall expenses, $28,806, so we had an overall profit, if you will, for the month of March of $2,711. I think if you look at March 25 versus March 24, honestly, the income was just about the same, right at like $31,000. And the expenses were about $5,000 more this year. So last March we had $8,300 in profit, and this March we had $2,700 in profit. And there are several graphs and things that you can take a look at if you so desire. Any questions on those financials?
I'd like to make a comment, Deborah.
Yes.
We got $1,125,000. A significant amount of that's in savings. Shouldn't we roll some of that into a CD, because that's going to sit there for a while?
We actually do have it in money market. A lot of it is in a money market account that's earning really good interest. And then the cumulative improvement fund actually is invested in a CD with First Internet Bank. So we're actually doing pretty well on interest.
The interest income in March was $1,125.
Right.
1%.
I can check with Yvonne on that and see where she's at on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, because if it's going to sit there for 6 months or a year, we probably ought to move that into something more significant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we got claims for the month of March, $19,991.57. $8,191 was related to payroll. And then we had 11.8, which was other items, okay, the claims payable. But of that amount, we spent $6,600 on buoys and things of that nature, and also $2,000 on a new computer for the office, which was budgeted. So those are kind of, that's, $8,600 out of the 11.8. If there's any questions on any of the claims, if there are none, I would ask for a motion to approve the March claims.
I move we approve the March claims.
No, second.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify with aye. Anyone opposed? Mike,
I approve.
thank you. Okay.
The other thing I would just note is that we're in the process of being audited. It's a standard process. We get audited every 2 years. The nice thing about it is the State Board of Accounts kind of took it back in-house instead of outsourcing it to Crow like they have the last couple of times. So I'm hoping we don't have to pay out as much for the audit. If you recall, last year, we ended up paying $12,000 for it. So we'll see how that comes out, but it's moving along according to Adam. I talked to him today and they're pulling their samples and things
Yeah.
like that. And I signed the engagement letter and I filled out my questionnaire for any sense of concerns that I might have had with regard to progress or anything like that, which I have none. And so stay tuned for on that.
Did you say that they do that every year?
2 years,
Every 2 years, okay.
yeah. So they're auditing 23 and 24.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think that concludes the treasurer's report. It looks like we might have some election results here. Oh, okay, okay, probably.
It's another tie.
Stand by then.
Flip a coin.
Doesn't seem like it's gonna be a quick answer, so maybe we can move forward with like the fireworks contract and
Yeah,
agenda.
I don't think.
Okay. So, that's manager's report.
Yes. So for the fireworks contract, we have entered into, well, not yet, once we vote, but we have a contract ready to go with Bill Hawkins and Heath Headley again to do the fireworks. They've done it for as long as I've been here at this point. We are scheduled to have our fireworks on Friday, July 4th. The rain date, we are not 100% sure on yet. They are still getting all of their scheduling done with the city and at the fairgrounds and some other events. But as far as we know, unless it's raining, it will be Friday, July 4th. This is pretty standard.
Well, it's kind of
Contracts.
unusual that we got the 4th of July.
Yeah,
We never
me
get
too.
the 4th of
I know,
July. They're always
yes.
doing another city,
Yeah.
like the.
Yeah, I
Fair
think we were really early this year in getting to him, and I mean, I know that the fairgrounds typically gets their choice of date, but I think we just,
Was this the price of our contract last year?
I think it went up to $500.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it went from 10 to 10.5.
I'll move that we approve it.
We'll see if that gets us more.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the fireworks contract. Everyone in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mike,
I agree.
thank you. Motion carries. Gonna have fireworks. Okay, I guess we
Conflict of interest, let's skip that for now. I really would like to go over that once we know who's gonna be on board. The barge infrastructure usage agreement, this has to do with the sale of the barge to Warner Marina and the ability for them to use the Possum Trot disposal sites for offloading of their materials as well as staging of equipment, having a commercial sublease at that point, as well to dock the barge at. I would hope that you guys have all read through that. There are some stipulations on the LLC's ability to recoup some funds if necessary from the placement of dredge spoils on our sites. We have since 2015, as far as I know, even longer than that, had a budget line item to keep that space open through our private dredging. It's been used in the past by third-party entities to place dredging material I don't really have a lot more to say about that. I don't know if you guys have questions on that.
Yes, I assume that Steve and you and the office have worked this out, and everybody's happy with it, right?
Adam worked it out with.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. So it's not
I
like
think
something
it's
we're offering, it's something you've already negotiated.
Yes,
Okay.
and I think it's mutually beneficial
Yeah.
for the district, the freeholders, and Steve. I mean, it's not really anything we haven't done in the past.
So Les, I have a comment about that.
Okay,
You and I served on the DSG dredging group for many, many years. Prior to both of us getting on the board, we've never charged a $100 fee to anyone being dredged. This $100 is just going to be passed on to the people that are going to want dredged, and that's never been charged to whatever the guy's name, McClintock or whatever his name. And so I like the agreement. I'm glad Steve Warner bought the barge. I'm happy that we keep the barge on the lake, but I would like to remove the $100 fee for disposing of dredge material, because that's just going to charge other people. And we really don't know what he's going to charge for dredge material to be removed. And that really affects the east end of the lake. It affects Malcolm's district and affects my district. So please consider that.
I don't see removing the $100 fee. I mean, I think it's pretty minimal because we've got the responsibility and to have to continue to keep enough room there and spend money on an annual basis. I think I checked with Adam earlier about that whole point. And I think he said we've been spending probably $10,000 a year
Budgeted.
on we budgeted 20, but
20,
we've been
yeah.
spending about 10.
Yeah.
I've got kind of a big
Yes.
extensive text message from him.
Mike,
so.
and directly following the $100 fee is at the discretion of LLCD management. The disposal fee can be waived if they assist us with loading haul trucks to remove that waste. So I think the kind of thought was if they help us on the loading portion.
Then we would have the
offset that.
ability to
Yeah.
waive it at the
Right.
end of the year after, and this is all gets paid at the end of the year anyway,
Right.
where we get some accounting of, how
What they've
many
done.
loads there were. I'd say if both parties have agreed to, we leave it.
yeah, and the idea was that Steve would have some skin in the game, because he's making some money off of this, and it is mutually beneficial in that it's great to have the dredging service on site, and also though, we're giving him a place to put it, okay, and we have expenses related to that disposal site. And so just, a little bit of give and take here and mutually beneficial, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think the thought too is just like, should he, remove a, exorbitant amount on any given year, and then, not that you would do this, Steve, but then he's just gone. We have some way to get rid of all of that without,
Well, they want to move to approve it.
I move to approve it as is.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
I'm a no.
Okay. Motion carries though. Thank you.
The next thing that we've kind of talked about last month and really a lot over the past few years, especially with the Broward County Rural Sewer District, looking at doing some sewer work, has been septic system testing around the lake. I know Martha spoke to this at the beginning of the public comment. Adam and Les were able to take a little field trip to Cordray Sweetwater, as their conservancy district does require some septic inspection and some pump out on a rolling basis. It's not like any kind of dye testing or anything. It's just a visual inspection on the private septic pumping company that it's a properly maintaining system. Beyond that, we have talked with the state of Indiana. There's a House bill currently drafted that would restrict local governments from requiring any testing beyond what the state would require or the county. So currently, we've been told that, and by how easily it got out of committee, it seems to have quite strong backing. So I'm really honestly not sure legally we have a lot of authority to require further septic testing beyond what the county and the health department can enforce.
Now at Sweetwater Cordery, though, I mean, they were able to implement that.
They are
rules.
doing that, yes.
Yeah, and so I don't know if this law passes, are they gonna be out of business? I do recall though, their managers saying, they reminded us that they are a water company also. So everybody that's there is on the Cordery Sweetwater Water Company and they'll just shut your water off, you know, if you don't comply. So that's one stick that they have apparently. So, I mean, I just hate the idea though that we can't do something about it because, you know, it's lake health and we know that there's high coliform counts in certain places.
What are the health, because it's the health department that is on the trailer park behind the marina. They're the ones that have come in there, you know, so what really are they? And what would it?
Yeah, I don't know why that one is different, the trailer park.
What about?
By the marina.
Well, it's the health department that basically came in and put the hammer on them.
Yes.
Right, okay. And is that Brown County?
That is Monroe
Monroe.
County.
All right, okay,
Um,
so.
That was a very large known point, but basically point source.
Right.
I think, you know, if any individual homeowner had an issue that was as glaring, it would come to the attention of the health department.
Okay.
So it sounds like we have to keep our eye on this bill.
Yes.
I don't know when this is supposed to come up,
I
but we
can-
can't do much. Like, I think we just need to keep an eye on this, and if it passes, then we need to look at the language and figure out what our options are around that language, whether we have to involve the city as it's their, you know, backup reservoir. You know, there may be options, but I don't know if we can speculate on what we can do until we see what that bill actually does, right?
But I don't know for Martha, who made the public comment, we've been discussing this whole septic issue for years that I've been on the board, and there was a thought about putting in a requirement to make certain districts on a rotating basis, you know, test their septics and things of that nature. I think we shied away from it, mostly because of enforcement issues and things of that nature. And I guess I'm kind of agreeing with you. I think we're just gonna have to keep an eye on the bill.
We have no authority over the trailer park. They're not in the district.
It's the health department.
So, and that's the worst offender.
Right.
So I think, in summary, there is an appetite to look at this, but with this pending bill, I think it's a waste of time and resources to get too into it until we know what that does.
It's House Bill 1352.
Okay, so is that something, I guess we want to direct management to keep their eye on that?
Yeah, we have
I think
been.
it's
I mean-
the appetite of the board to do something.
Okay. Do we have further discussion on this issue? Okay, it looks like maybe we have results. Okay, so I will make the announcements here. Stephen Freeman had 15 votes and Stephen Warner had 21. So Stephen Warner is will be here shortly, the new Sub-Area 4 district representative. So Steve, come on up, we're gonna swear you in, and we're gonna put you to work right away. So. Thank you to our clerks. Okay, thank you folks for doing this again. Okay, so. All right. So we're gonna have to print this off and get it to you, but gotta raise your hand and all that business, okay? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I shall, to the best of my ability,
that I shall, to the best of my ability,
strive to accomplish the purposes
strive to accomplish the purposes
for which the district is established
for which the district is established,
and to properly operate and maintain its works of improvement.
and to properly operate and maintain its works of improvement.
Okay, you're in.
Thank you.
Okay,
And if you want to take this and.
We can
have a seat.
Right here, yeah.
Right,
sit right there.
Hot seat.
okay. All right, then you even gonna get a name tag here. So, okay. All right, very good. Well, again, thank you everyone for voting, those of you in District 4, and thanks again to the clerks. And no tie this time, so, woo. Okay. So you want to circle back to that conflict?
Oh, yes, so then we can go over the conflict of interest now. Let me get back to that. This is an annual disclosure that we do every year with the board. This will be sent to all the board members to sign afterwards. I have already talked with Steve in the event that he were to win, that he will have to fill out a state form disclosing that he is operating a business on the lake. He will be filling that out and
I brought it.
oh, you have it with you? Yeah, okay, so I can take that now and we will be filing that along with these. And then we will just need everyone on the board to sign those and get those back to us, disclosing any conflict of interest you may have.
So you're gonna send them electronically?
Yes, it'll be sent through the Adobe Sign as we do with typically most of our signed documents. So then moving on, dam inspection. We had the dam inspection this spring. We have the dam inspection every other year, and then the sluice gate and dive inspection every other inspection. So this year was a year that we had the dive team come out and they go down into the pits on the dam and check the sluice gate upstream and downstream of the valve closure in the dam to just inspect how that system is working. And then we had our engineers that have done the dam inspection in the past out to do that dam inspection again. The dam inspection side of things was satisfactory. We are still in good shape. The only thing they really had was some small mole hills or, vermin holes on the dam, which happens typically, and then we go out and, backfill them back up. Everything else is looking good. We did some work 2 years ago on the settling basin, on one of the wing walls. So where the sluice gate empties out on the dam side, we can control somewhat the flow there. And there was some erosion issues. That was inspected and seemed to be satisfactory for what they were looking for. On the dive side of things, they did note that 42-inch tube going through the dam is in sections with a gasket in between each section to kind of seal that up. And those seals are showing signs of age. So they are recommending that those will be need to be maintained and replaced in the near future. It's not a, what was the terminology they used? It's not going to affect the ability of the dam to pass water, hold water, or function, but it is a maintenance issue with the age of the dam that will be needed to take care of. They are going to provide us with an initial quote for that. We will then obviously be looking at how much that's gonna cost and who could possibly perform that work. It is somewhat specialized since it's a dive crew, in a 42-inch pipe, replacing gaskets in between sections. But it is something we need to be aware that will be a cost coming forward in the near future.
Could you put a liner in the pipe?
Like one of those blow-in ones that they,
It's very common now and saves you from all kinds of leaky stuff.
yeah, I'm not sure though on the upstream side of the pipe.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you could cap it at the lakeside and pump the water. It's submerged constantly. No. But other than that, they said it looked good, you know, some signs of wear that were typical for a dam of our age, and then that gasket issue on just the upstream side. Downstream, it looked all right.
Les, did you say that Corky Sweetwater had an issue with their dam or something?
Yes. No, they're
They had a big
redoing
issue.
their spillway
Oh, okay.
and a large cost. Yeah.
You remember the dollars?
No,
No. Okay.
but a lot. It's been going on for a while too, and the road's closed. I kind of got lost, couldn't get to their office because DPS said to go this way and there was no road there. It's a big hole, so. Okay,
Next thing, bathymetric survey. We have had aquatic control out. That was the airboat just going back and forth, not the airboat at night. They don't do bathymetric surveys or spray at 2 a.m.
The same one.
yeah.
But it was out for a while. I mean, they have to do quite close passes to one another to get their bathymetric surveys done. So it takes, they were out there 3 different times, I believe, or all day. It's been since 2019 since we've done one of these, so it has been, 7 years now. We were really wanting to get this done after we've done so much dredging in the past 3 years to see how that's affected things. If we are going to look at any type of usage restrictions, getting a good idea of the depths, what they are and where they are in the lake. Hopefully seeing, some A, effects of the dredging, and B, getting an idea on sediment infiltration and our accumulation rates in the lake. It's something we have typically done, on a periodic basis throughout the Conservancy even since before the Conservancy, since Lake Lemon's inception. It's always been an issue and it's always been something they've been tracking, so we're continuing to do that. We should have that information very soon, next week, hopefully. They've got all of the data, they're just now processing that in Google Maps.
And I think that as just speaking as the treasurer, we felt it was really important to have that bathymetric study. I mean, we've got to see, we've invested billions of dollars in, trying to remove sediment. We've got to see where we're at and what that says for the future and what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's key to making informed decisions.
And that's gonna be over the entire lake,
It's the
right?
entire lake,
So it's gonna include where we dredged and where we didn't.
from Bean Blossom Creek to the dam.
Okay.
And they went in the coves too,
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, they get pretty much everywhere they can. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that, and it should be interesting. I think we will probably have our engineers take a look at that as well and kind of get an idea on sediment loading year over year based off the 2019 data to the 2025 data. Moving on, we are doing the Riddle Point Boogie again, May 10th. We are having Bluegrass Americana music at the park from, gates open at noon, and then the music is from 2 to 10. I think we have 5 bands coming out. The headliner is Armchair Boogie. They are out of Wisconsin. Pretty upbeat, kind of Americana rock style almost. So I, welcome everyone to come out to that. And then the next meeting, I do want to just say right now, before we get into too much, is not going to be Saturday, June 21st. This was decided after we had sent this out, so we will be holding a May meeting.
May 29th.
Yes, May 29th, Thursday here. And then the next meetings will be at the shelter house over the summer at Riddle Point.
And I think the officers decided that with Adam and because of this wake boat issue, and I think it might have been covered in the communication that we were gonna have a special meeting, but specifically for that topic. And we didn't have-
I have a comment about that. So the constant contact said the board approved and I would just ask Les if they're gonna say the board approved, then just email the board and let us know what the officers have discussed it. So that when you put in a constant contact, the board is approved. I don't have 96 people calling me and wanting to know what the board has approved. Thank you.
Okay, you got that?
Yep.
Okay,
All right, now,
I think it's time for your presentation.
yes. Sorry, I'm used to Microsoft Teams a little more than. Oh, here it is. It's it. Do you know much about Zoom?
Got the new computer, you know, this guy.
Well, yeah, I just usually use Microsoft Teams if I'm being honest, and you know, I thought it was right in.
Lily, you're the youngest one here. You probably do this in your sleep.
For sure.
That's why my video isn't working.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? That June meeting, is it at 6 p.m. or is it in the middle of?
No, it's at 10.
Says 6 p.m. It should be 10 a.m.,
It's
right?
not 6 p.m.?
You're right. That's 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Okay.
Yes.
We do.
But the May one, 6 p.m.
Right, but the one in June is in the morning.
Right, and because anytime we're doing them at, Riddle Points.
Right, I just want to clarify.
Thank you.
May, but June is.
All right, sorry about that. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can. I think most people here have tried to do quite a bit of research on this on their own. I do want to present just a quick overview of how these boats operate, the different ways that they can make waves to surf. A little bit of the scientific research that we found on this, and then really kind of different options that we could possibly take to mitigate or allow or
Mitigate the negative impact.
yes, of the lake, yes. So I'll just get into this and then I have some discussions on like other states and what they've done in different places. And then we can kind of have a discussion on that. So wake surfing is a little bit different than wakeboarding or tubing or skiing. It's done at a much slower rate of speed than skiing or wakeboarding. And there's a lot of different ways that people can make surf waves. It's not specifically a surf boat. So there are surf-specific boats that people have. A lot of these are made by Mastercraft, Malibu, Access, Turan. There are also other ways that people can make surf waves on more traditional boats. So that can be the installation of ballast tanks on an older ski boat, or even just a, speed boats. And then there also are things that people are using that are called like wake shapers or surf gates. So I brought a knotted curl right here. These are suctioned onto the side of the boat, whichever side you're gonna try and surf on, to create a better boil to surf. And then also there are boats that have any combination of these. So there are boats that have, the gates and ballast tanks that are surf-specific boats as well. So what I kind of want to get across is it's not just a surf boat that can make a wave that's surfable. You can create surfing waves on a variety of different style of boats. Effects that are of note to us are just the wave energy that the boats create and the shoreline impacts. We are a pretty light sediment benthic lake. It doesn't take a lot to stir up the bottom of Lake Lemon. I think everyone knows that, especially in shallow areas. So that lake bottom habitat disruption and loss of aquatic vegetation due to that is really kind of our primary concern, along with shoreline erosion. If we have residents living on the lake, invasive species are not obviously a huge concern with ballast tanks because they're filling water from the lake and returning it to the lake. It's more of an issue with people coming from outside of Lake Lemon that could be having ballast tanks with water in them from a different lake and not following, again, the best management practices of drying those out and emptying them before they enter the lake. Really, our biggest worry would be quagga mussels or zebra mussels, as they're commonly known. We do not have them in Lake Lemon, and we do not want them. So that's another risk. Again, not a risk that is totally unique to surf boats, but is present. And then, just the public safety and the property damage. I think we've had numerous reports of people, trying to kayak and being unable to, or boats really taking quite a battering on docks. And then, the damage associated with that. So kind of what
What were those pictures?
Oh, so this picture is just,
Well, the 14 and the 23.
oh, this is like a video that's taken out of Wisconsin, I believe. I'm gonna send this out to everyone too in a PDF so that you guys can go through all this.
Yeah.
We made this little thing, but this is just really, they've done some studies in some areas where they've documented a lot of vegetation loss that coincides with the rise of wake surfing. Whether or not it's a direct result, I can't speak to. It's an interesting video, I think.
So it looked like it was really pretty clear or clearer in 14 or.
Yeah, I mean, that could be I don't think the water clarity is a thing. What this is showing is the vegetation
Okay.
effects, yeah, more than the water clarity. Yeah. What we've kind of seen as consensus among most university or state studies is that 500 feet from shore and 15 feet of depth seems to be at a point where they have minimal damage or disturbance. Obviously, draining your ballast tanks before you're transporting them, allowing them to dry, and the best management practices that, you know, are given to wake surfing boat owners when they buy these boats. We would hope those would be informed or followed. I think, you know, regardless of what happens, having some updated signage at the boat ramp about some of this stuff would go a long way. So we could look at restricting wake surfing in our shallow or narrow areas. And there's been a lot of areas, we don't have quite as many issues with this, but some lakes have specific environmentally sensitive areas where they have spawning grounds or known loon nesting sites that they have restricted wake surfing near, just so that they're not damaging those biota. So, you know, as we've kind of thought about this and tried to give some ideas that we could mull or for the board to consider is the depth of Lake Lemon. So we are a quite shallow lake, especially given our size. There are a lot of lakes in the state that are much smaller than Lake Lemon that are much deeper. And so this map shows two different kind of overlays. The larger light red is approximately the 10-foot contour line while staying away from the shoreline. The dark red area is the 15-foot contour line. Obviously, there are some areas outside of these lines that achieve those depths, but these are the contiguous areas of 10 and 15 feet deep in Lake Lemon.
That we know now, and then we're gonna get the bathymetric study.
Yes.
Because this is based upon 2019. is
Yes, but as we've talked about in the past, the rates of sedimentation in the middle of the lake, at least historically, haven't been feet over, you know, a period of 5 years. It's been much, much less. So our average depth is 9.08 feet as of 2019. We try and put our buoys approximately 200 feet from the shore. You know, we could talk about trying to have wake boats 300 to 500 feet from shore. That becomes really tough. I mean, I don't think we're in a position to put all the buoys 500 feet from shore. That seems a little unnecessary. There are lakes that do time of day restrictions, slow times, fast times, that could apply to wake surfing. And again, I just want to kind of highlight that we are experiencing a great deal of sedimentation from outside of the lake. We've spent a great deal of money over the past, well, since 2015, 20 years, or 2005, to combat these issues. Our watershed is almost completely comprised of highly erodible soils on steep slopes. So there's a lot that we can't control, but there also are things that we can try and do to mitigate the issues that are happening in the lake. New bathymetric data, as we just discussed, will be available very soon. So considerations for enforcement on Lake Lemon. It does seem through our ordinances with the city that we have the ability to restrict types of boats and activities that take place on the lake. We would need a resolution, obviously, to codify any restrictions and how enforcement would take place. I mean, if there's going to be a restriction on an activity, there obviously needs to be some enforcement and then recourse for those that are not following those rules. We are getting more staffing this year for Lake Patrol. Logan Markham is going to be likely the person that's out on the jet ski along with myself. I'm very excited for that. That was a line item that we added to staffing to this year's budget to help assist and have more of a presence on the lake. Not really wake surfing oriented, but just, you know, skiers without spotters, people going too fast in no wake zones, young folks on jet skis, you know, inconsiderate boating in general. And the other thing I do want to highlight is anything that we were to do, the DNR, when they are out and the conservancy officers or conservation officers will not enforce. They are enforcing state law and state statutes, so they're not going to enforce a Lake Lemon rule or ordinance. I do want to just acknowledge that Lake Lemon is not alone in dealing with this. This has been a super contentious issue across the country and globe. Indiana did have a bill last year, HB 1423, introduced by Steve Abbott, that was really just a lot of northern lake issues. There are small lakes that have 10-mile-an-hour speed limits that people are wake surfing on that were never meant for that. And the DNR currently can't restrict that or allow that. It banned wake surfing behind outboard motors, which seems very common sense. And then it would ban wake surfing at night, which again, most tow sports you can't do after sunset, but since you're technically under 10 miles an hour, technically in northern Indiana lakes, it's legal. Corder Sweetwater has a ban on wake surfing boats. And then, I mean, I'm not gonna go through all these. There's a litany. A lot of them are, looking at depth and setback requirements. Some lakes are banning them. Some areas of rivers and the Pacific Northwest has placed bans on them where rivers are narrower and there's not that ability for wave attenuation.
What is Cordery Sweetwater's ban on them? I mean, what is their?
Les, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well,
It's nearest to.
yeah, well, it's,
They're really deep too.
yeah, but they have banned them outright. Now, if you own a wake boat, you don't have to sell it, but you can't use the ballast or you can't use those devices and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they make you
Disconnect it.
your trim tabs or your ballast physically.
Yeah, and of course, they also, have designated areas for no wake, just like we do and stuff. But it's more in the center of the lake. But then the other thing though to note is there is a difference between wakeboarding and wake surfing. And they have not banned wakeboarding, okay? And so that's, without the wake producing devices, it's basically a ski boat then, and you can water ski behind it or you can wakeboard behind it. And so that's where they ended up with that. They did have a referendum, and let's see, what did it was like 200, where was it? I looked up there.
Oh, yeah, you told us that.
Yeah, they had 246 people voted that they did not wish to allow wake surfing, and 100 of the freeholders voted that yes, they wanted it. So based on that, they banned it.
And I will say too, we have begun already to put together a questionnaire feedback survey that will go out to all freeholders and general public, actually everyone that's on our listserv, because there's options for general public to respond to that as well, to kind of take what we talk about tonight and provide us feedback on what freeholders would like to see and how they would like to move forward.
One thing that, we've all heard pros and cons about this, but the one thing that I found was disappointing was that, if a freeholder, owns a wake boat, the problem with this moratorium we were gonna put on is that let's say you're trading it in and you're paying your taxes and you live on the lake and you're a freeholder, it means you can't get a new boat, that's it. And there's no way to have one rule for the freeholders, is my understanding, and one rule for the public, because we do have this lease with the city of Bloomington Utilities, and so that's.
Yeah, our lease with the city does, I'm not an attorney and we could have Cameron Parker look at this, but in my understanding of it, we
should look at that.
probably are not able to have a set of rules for freeholders and a set of rules for the public.
We need to look at that.
Or,
Be sure.
Equitable access.
yeah, in other words, because I think some, we did hear from some folks that said, well, ban outside big boats, but based on that, you know, I think we can just say, well, you can't come here.
And
Well,
then,
let's double check that.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
last year we had 28, I believe 28 or 29, just under 30 boats that purchased a wake tag, so the extra fee, and we sold like 10 daily wake surfing. And I know who that, I think it was pretty much one person at Kansas, because they like
You know, but we do charge extra for non-freeholders.
Yes.
To launch, so. but
they're
that's-
charging, they're paying the extra wake fee as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, just any boat, anybody that comes with any kind of boat,
Yeah.
fishing boat, I mean, if they're not a freeholder, they have to pay more.
Mhm.
So my point is, if we can do that.
Well, that's
That's
in
a
the
difference.
stipulations of our agreement with the
Oh,
city
okay.
though, because that's all spelled out with the rate at which we can raise those prices and how that worked. I mean, that was all set up.
Okay.
These are the prices that were developed when the conservancy was conceived and then,
We've had that mixed out except for the yearly
yes,
the
yeah.
yearly increases that were allowed, so there's not much more movement there. And we did, so, I mean, obviously that's the low hanging fruit, this idea of, you know, keeping them off. The wording, which what they're kind of getting at is that because it is public water, even though we have the conservancy district, because it is technically a public lake, the wording is you need to treat the public equally with the freeholders or something along those lines. So that's why it's a little bit, it's not necessarily ambiguous, but it's a little bit, it's not totally clear.
Yeah.
So I agree it's worth looking into, but the magnitude of that at the end of the day is very small. When you, like Ross said, I think it was even less than 10. And as far as the people that actually had a yearly outside pass, I think it was like 3 or.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a consideration, but in the overall conversation, it is a very, very small component of it. So I just wanted to make that clear because I know it's been brought up by a number of people.
Ross, can I ask you a question? I assume that on all wake boats, you can turn off the wake feature, either by removing things, release, in other words, if we were to ban these, and I'm not saying that that's what we should do, if we were to ban these, it's not gonna obviate somebody's boat, is it?
No,
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about Corridor Sweetwater. It just required you to dismantle.
You
that
can
option.
disable it and works as a normal
And
boat.
then you can use it for water skiing or whatever,
Okay.
you know.
Except that you've paid my son-in-law, my grandkids have a place on Heritage Lake and it's 30 or 40 feet deep in the middle, so they can only go in the main body, but they spend close to $100,000 on a used boat, you know? And so it's kind of like if people are investing and spending that
Yeah, I
kind of
understand
money,
that.
it's just kind of like, it's a tough issue.
I guess Malcolm, to your point though, a surf boat specifically is not in surf mode all of the time.
Right, okay, that's what I want.
Now, there was one of the research, one of the states that we researched though, even banned riding your boat with the bow up. Because some of these things will still put out a pretty good wake because of the V drive, the engines in the back and everything and the way the boat's designed. And so they said you can, you know, other than if you're
Excessive planing.
driving up on a plane, you're okay, it's all right, but if you're just, you know, with the bow up, then they had banned that as well. I don't remember what state that was, but.
Say, Wes, I wanted to just have a question, if you ran across anything in the literature about danger to other boaters, other boats on the lake. Because a lot of this, we haven't talked about so much about that. I had one of the folks in my area called me and said that he was out, I think it was last year, on the lake, and he found himself between 2 wake boats who were going, you know, full speed, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, he said it damn near capsized him. And he took on a lot of water into the
Yeah.
boat.
He was in a
at the
boat,
time.
not on a kayak.
No, he was in his boat, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, and the answer is, no, most of the research is focused on the natural, you know, impacts to the environment, probably because it's easier to measure. And they don't, keep track of people that are capsized or whatever. Now, I did, though, come across the Coast Guard study just that said there has been a increase in paddleboard drownings. Nationwide for the last, how many, 4 or 5 years they looked at it. Now, the cause and effect, is it from wake boats, is it from something else, who knows? They didn't get into that. They just said that that is one category where more people were drowning. Now, it could be because more people were going out buying kayaks too, I don't know.
Well, I did have one of my, people in my district emailed me and said they've been knocked over more than once when trying to paddleboard. So it's like there are people that want to enjoy the lake for some aspects and other people that want to do something else. We have to figure out some solution so we can all like live in harmony.
Yeah, this is a classic case of what we would call user conflict. You got two different user groups that want to use the same piece of property for different reasons, and how do you do that and make it okay for everybody,
Lost another question. Do we have vegetation on the bottom other than at the east end? I mean, that we had so little light.
No, but we do have a lot of sediment on the bottom that
Right,
holds a
that gets
lot of
stirred up.
nutrients.
Yep.
Yes.
And as it gets stirred up, it'll move westward, because
Yes.
that's the general flow of
Yeah.
the lake, so.
Yeah.
So wake boating
When you
is
say
going to
you
drive
have
sediment.
vegetation, like, what do you mean? Like, we've all kinds of seaweed and stuff down at our end.
Well, in the shallows, you.
Yeah, in the shallow areas, but in areas of
The point is
15 feet.
the lake has so much sediment that not much light gets to like a depth of 10 feet.
The concern on the resuspension isn't around like transport, it's on the release of nutrients, and so
Yes.
we just don't want to get to, the thought is that you want to avoid getting to a green algae situation.
Do we have a
Green
sense of how
algae.
much phosphate's in our water?
Yes, phosphorus.
Yeah, phosphorus.
Yes, we do. I mean, we have good data from the IU sampling,
Is it
on what's in.
high or low?
I mean, we are a very hyper-eutrophic lake, which
We
means,
are, okay.
yes, we're very productive lake and we have higher levels than one would like to see. We discussed having Sarah at the meeting today to discuss last year's sampling, but we thought it would just take way too long.
Maybe we could have her in May.
Yeah, so she's ready with her presentation for last year's sampling and but that's where a lot of phosphorus particularly, which is the driver, not the nitrogen of algae blooms, is locked up.
Okay, one last question. How wide is the lake from Riddle Point?
1,200, Riddle Point north?
From her door to your door?
It's like, from the tip of Riddle Point straight, I think it's like 1,236 feet.
Okay, so it's wide enough that you could go through.
Yeah,
there
you could
and
put-
Be far enough from
yes.
shore. That's not an issue.
Yes. Yes, from here, straight across here, it's like 1,200 feet. Actually, if you go to the closest.
Yeah.
And it's like 1,500 from, I call it a beach point, straight across as well.
See, the challenge though, is, okay, let's say we agree on 400 or 500 or whatever, and we agree on a depth, 20 feet or 15 feet, whatever we agree. And then, so how do you designate that? Because it's impossible to tell. You're out there, like, what's 500 feet, what's 200 feet? And so we'd almost have to, mark it off with some kind of special buoys or something, that this is a designated wake surfing area.
I mean, we talked about it and I just disagree. I think if you have 200-foot buoys and we want, like, I mean, yes, there's a gestalt to it, but like, it's pretty clear if you're right up against the 200-foot buoys that you're not at that 400-foot mark or, wherever we want people to be. I think that I think that it's not as difficult as you're saying, and I completely disagree with trying to put another set of buoys out there. I think that creates a danger. I think it creates a hazard. I think you have too many tubers and other boaters and everything. I just think that we have to trust people to be somewhat intelligent and be able to see where they're at. And it's gonna take some correction, I'm sure. You know, but I think that with a little bit of correction, I have to trust that we have enough smart voters that they can figure out where they're at.
If we did want to enforce it, you could never prove it, you know? But say, no, it's 300 feet. Our
I can,
our lake
I
guy
can go
says,
with a rangefinder if I really want to. I can pull up right next to the boat with a rangefinder, shoot the buoy, and I can say, hey, I can prove this is how far you are from that buoy. I'm just giving you a little warning here. You gotta, you know, get this to the center. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about being in a center channel, right? Like everybody's brain is capable of knowing equidistance from shorelines roughly. Like if you're shying way towards one shoreline, that's on you to not, I mean.
I think what's gonna be really telltale is this bathymetric study, because I'm,
Yeah.
as District Two, very concerned. Because Adam, in conversations we've had, have said, well, it's all gonna have to happen on the west end, all gonna be around that island up there, you know, just past that point. And, you know, that's, you know, how are you gonna have that many boats like going around in a circle up there, you know? It's just like, our lake is just too shallow. Should we open?
any other discussion from the board?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got one thing.
Go ahead.
Mike wanted to say something.
Mike,
Oh, Mike?
Well, if we all are boaters, then we know that the sailboats, they put buoys out. And you're not allowed to go through the sailboat design. They got a large buoy at the north end, they got a large buoy at the south end. And you go around those, you don't go through them. The second thing I have is we don't have any enforcement. I don't know of anybody that's an enforcement officer on the board or on the lake. And so, you know, I think that we can coexist. And I do believe that we should put some type of marker out on the lake. It can be any kind of marker, but it would just be it would be a wakeboard marker. And people oblige the sailboats just like they would oblige these. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. All right, any further comment on the board? Okay, so we will now entertain comments from the public. So once again, remember, I'm gonna bug you to stay at 3 minutes. So, okay,
I'm
good.
Sergio
Good start.
Kama. I own 4 houses on South Shore Drive, 2 on the water, and 2 parcels of land that come to 10 acres. I've been here for 41 years. I was at the first formation of the I'm sort of shocked and a little bit ashamed of what I've heard here, because I think people don't really understand the issue. And today, I brought this issue before you guys over a year ago, when my pontoon boat was twice almost totally tipped over by wakeboard boats. And I saw the shoreline erosion go into the lake, not my house, but down the lake from me. And I have other friends that have had it. Doug Bansell and I go out in the middle of the lake every evening and we see this happen a lot. Everyone, including anybody here that owns a wake boat, should watch the Michigan State video. You can also read it. I'm not sure how anybody could watch that video and even think about having a single wake boat on this lake. The damage to sediment, the newer studies say minimum 20 feet depth, and it should be 50 feet depth if the boat's less than 5 years old. And if somebody has a wake boat and they're worried about the price of it, sell it to somebody else and get a really nice other boat. We're gonna see by the barometric study that we're not gonna have space for it. I really urge everybody to watch that video. I have been researching this for a long time and I just thought, oh, the sediment and rocking my boat and doing damage to my dock. But then when I saw today, I was shocked. They showed 20 feet and 50 feet the damage to the bottom in the newer studies. They went over like 25 different studies. The studies that say 200 feet are old, and they're also pushed by the marine something, you know, how a big corporation puts money into changing a study. Well, that's what some of the studies have been changed because the marine organization push them to get the level down. So 15 feet is not acceptable. 20 is the beginning, and they're really on the newer boats is 50. And we want to save this lake. I've been here 41 years. I've seen it die. And I want you to save the lake, and I want you to pay attention. The sediments being stirred up is the problem. I thought the problem was my boat getting tipped over. I thought the problem was shoreline. No, the problem is the sediment down the middle being stirred up. It's 2.5 football fields long of sediment is what they showed in their studies with the drone over it. And I don't see how anyone that lives at the lake can morally want to destroy our lake this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she's stuck to 30 seconds.
Doug Van Sel, District 4. I've been on the lake longer than you. My parents bought our place in 1968. In fact, does anybody remember the PT boat that was on the lake in 1969? Probably not. You talk about waves on the lake, that was pretty bad. All right, I just wanted to clear up a couple of things I heard today that I didn't quite agree with. One is this notion that there are two groups, the wake surfers and everybody else. I count 8 groups: kayakers, sailors, pontooners, skiers, paddleboarders, fishing. It's not equivalent. You know, it's 30 people versus 300, 400 people. Okay, it's not just us and them, it's a whole bunch of people and a small group of people. Like Gail said, the later studies say that the churn from underneath these boats goes down 33 feet. It's not just 10 feet, it goes, they can churn up the lake 33 feet deep, and it's not just under the boat, it's hundreds of feet on both sides of the boat. So it goes down and it washes around. It's much bigger effect than you think. You know, and you're going along in the boat, you don't realize it, you don't see it, but it's, man, underneath that thing, it's going crazy. Couple other things. I disagree with the point that it makes the boats worthless. They're still worth the same amount of money. You just can't fill up the ballast tanks. Maybe not worth the same to you for your enjoyment, but the boat on the market, it's the same boat that it was before. You can put it on the market, you can sell it for the same price that you could before this thing passed. One other thing about the boats coming in from outside the lake, there are many of the people that have passed provisions already have one called the same lake provision to address the bilge water stuff. So there are lakes that have passed, put provisions in place where you can have a wake boat on the lake, but it's got to stay on the lake. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out, so that it obviates that thing. And one last thing is, there's been a provision on this lake for the size of boats for many, many years, 30 feet. And the reason for that initially was because of the size of the wakes and the interference with all these other types of enjoyment and things. I mean, you can't have a big boat. Well, wake boats weren't invented then. So that's what you're doing with a wake boat. When you're wake surfing, you are equivalently driving a far bigger boat on this lake. So, that's a different point of view for it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike Hefner. I live 8051 Lakewood Drive. I came onto the lake in 2019. And what I would tell you, when I experienced Lake Lemon, most of what I found when I came here was just very poor etiquette boating, okay? And so that was when I came here, I was from Lake Cumberland, huge lake, right? But on that lake, people, they got out of each other's way. They were courteous to each other, putting in and out. When I boat on this lake, I don't see that, right? And it feels very divisive on the lake. And this issue feels like it's maybe a little bit more of a waves issue versus erosion issue. I'd like to stay with the erosion issue because I think the health of the lake is really what we're trying to go at. But I did some homework in the studies. There's 2 articles that I found that I've got, and I can leave them with you, and I can share them via email with you. But boat wakes dissipate quickly and have little impact on shoreline compared to wind-driven waves. There's studies that have said that at 200 feet from the shoreline, and at a 10-foot depth, there is no difference in a speedboat that goes by versus a wake boat that goes by. And a lot of it is based on the thought process that the wave is bigger, but it's a very soft wake. And the education that most people don't understand about surfing. Sorry, my phone was in my ears. But they don't understand how a wake boat even works. You have to have at least 10 feet to even have a surf wake. And so we want to surf in the deep water. And what's happening here is the educational side of things. The shred and the red needs to be what we do and what we educate people on and what we teach people what to do on the lake, right? And so at 10 foot, the study that shows is multiple simulations show great loss of wave energy at various distances. But in each case, a boat operating at 200 feet from shore and water depths greater than 10 feet are optimal for shoreline and environmental health, okay? And so it's easy to say because it's a big wave that it creates a lot of the things that you're talking about. But at the same time, I don't think that's the true issue that we're dealing with here. We've got people that just don't like the waves. And I'd like to stay with the science. And I think limiting the areas of the lake makes a little bit of sense. There's no reason to be on the east end. It's not even 10 foot deep. So my vote would be for you guys to look at the science side of things a little bit better and look at the location away from the shoreline. And we stick to those things where we can all coexist. I like to paddleboard, I like to kayak, I like to do
Thank
all
you.
things.
Your time,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You bet.
Just as a side note, though, we are posting the research material that was in the PowerPoint. So-
Yes, this would be different than some of the research.
I think that one's
Those
on
are in the notations I have at the end of this.
Okay.
The Lisa study and the other one.
I just email them to
Yeah,
y'all.
they're in the list at the end of the
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
At the end,
Yeah,
okay.
we have those, so, okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Hamburger. I'm not a member of the association, but I'm here representing the Riddle Point Rowing Association. Probably most of you know, we share that beautiful boathouse with the Boys and Girls Club, Camp Rock, and Boy Scout Troop 110. We're really proud members of the Lake Lemon community for about 20 years, and we cherish the beauty and the environmental health of the lake. I'm here today to share a letter, which I can leave with you guys from our board, representing our 30 or so members who use the lake for recreational rowing. We're kind of at the front lines of the life safety issue. As probably most of you know, if you've seen us out there, we're in the low slung, single, double, or quad boats. Unlike the IU rowing team, we're typically not out with a launch, so we're out there on our own. The boats have typically just a few inches of freeboard between the gunnels and the water, and so any wave can be dangerous for us. The wake boats present a really significant hazard. We've already had some near misses. There are stories from the U.S. Rowing Association about boats being swamped or even split by the impact of the wakes. And when a rower is out there, especially early in the day or late in the evening, early in the season, at the end of the season, they're a particular hazard for the boats being capsized, for hypothermia, and even potentially fatal incidents. So we know it's a very small lake because when boats go by, the waves created by basically any motorboat reflect off of the shores of the lake and the jetties, And the wake boats in particular produce unpredictable waves that can be really dangerous for the boaters. So we cherish the lake and we hope you'll help protect it for the many types of users who are out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I leave you a copy of the service?
Let's see if you're gonna read that letter.
I didn't know if I could do it in 3 minutes. That's all. Got the short
We'll
version.
circulate it to
Yeah, I'll
the
send it.
board.
My name is David Kehoe and I am a freeholder. I also happen to be a rower. I've been on several national teams, an Olympic team, and I'm the coach at this rowing association. And so I just wanted to get up and vouch for Michael's statements in that these boats are fragile and people rowing them are not just in our club, but they're also at IU. As we all know, we have the rowing program there. And so it is a safety issue, I think, and I think that the board should be thinking about this along with the other factors that you're considering. Is a health and safety issue, really. I've been coaching there for over 10 years and it's a dedicated group, but you know, they're at the whim of the boaters. And I mean, I find personally that people are really considerate out on the lake. Usually I get away from people, you know, as I'm in the coaching launch, but something to just really keep in the forefront of your mind is the health and safety of the crews that are out there, you know, both the IU and the Riddle Point Rowing Association. So.
Just one question.
Sure.
What time of day are you generally out?
Well, that's a really good question, I think, and it was gonna be something I brought up, but then I'm thinking, you know, we're already talking about enforcement and locations and, 400 feet versus 200 feet. I mean, an ideal situation here would be to be restricting the wakeboarding, if it's gonna be allowed, to a certain time of the day, right? Because the rowers both, as we all know, I think because we see IU teams out, you also can see the Riddle Point folks out rowing. They're usually out in the morning, probably usually not past 9 o'clock or so. I mean, the Riddle Point gang all goes to work, so they're usually finished rowing by about 8, and we try to avoid, the heavier boat traffic. And then if they go out in the evening, it's usually not before 5 or something like that. So the IU rowing program tends to go more towards some of the times in the middle of the day. And of course, they've got launches that are out with them, so they don't have quite the safety issue that the Riddle Point program has. But it would be feasible, something to think about, that, if you're gonna allow wakeboarding, to allow it at a certain period of time during the day, say 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening or something like that. I don't know if that would work or not, but it's just another thing. I think it's a very good point. Yep.
Les, I have a question for Mr. Kehoe.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Kehoe, the IU Rowing Club, they use the east end of the lake most generally.
Oh.
And if we kept the wake boats at the west end of the lake, I get off work about 5 p.m. and I want to surf at 6 p.m. Would that be okay with your group?
Well, I think both the IU program and our program actually uses a fairly large portion of the lake, and the IU program tends to be over on the west side of the lake more than
We see them all the time out front.
Yeah,
of our
then
house.
the Riddle Point group tends to stay more on the eastern half, as you point out, but the IU rowing program, and it's kind of notable that nobody's here from that program to, weigh in on this, but they do tend to use the west side of the lake too. And they go almost all the way down to the dam, I think, quite frequently.
Yeah, they do.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So they start at Ellis Point and go all the way to the dam.
Yeah, I mean, the frequency of them being down that far isn't as great as when they're up, towards their boathouse. Naturally, you would expect, if they're, especially for the ones that are learning, they tend to stay a little bit closer to
All the time.
If you're on the Long Causeway, you see them. I mean, they're out there all the time along the Long Causeway. So I just wanted to make sure that if we do allow them on the lake and we allow them in the depth that is at the west end, I just wanted to see do you think we can coexist?
Well, I mean,
All right.
sure, yeah, yes.
I'm a board member. I want to know what his opinion is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we can coexist. I mean, the IU rowing program does not use the west side in the evening, as far as I know. I typically
They're in there in the morning.
They're typically out there till maybe 9, latest 10 o'clock.
We probably need to contact them.
But Mike, you know, it would be a really good idea to get some input from IU.
They've submitted it.
They have.
That's what this is all about, Mr. Kehoe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I comment on that from the Middle Point Rowing Association point of view? Just to mention, we have two main loops, one going down towards the east side and one when the wind is from the other direction going towards the west side. So I would say, you know, we do like to use both parts, and the waves can be a hazard on both sides of the lake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamburger, I got a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you think we can coexist?
Yes, as long as you're not out there when I'm out there, or vice versa. No, I think the time of day could be a possible solution. We're almost entirely out there within 2 hours of sunrise and within 2 hours of sunset. And that would be, you know, if we could find a way to restrict those times, that would be great. But that may not be true for the other light boat users. So I'm just speaking for our rowing club.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Andy Keene. I'm a freeholder, 10, 11 years now. I'm an avid kayaker. I'm on the water all the time in a kayak. Love to pontoon. Also love to wake surf. I think the safety issue is a canard, to be quite honest. When I'm in the kayak, I've been close to boats because I've moved out to the middle, which I didn't need to do. And I've never felt unsafe like I was going to capsize. My wife is out on a paddleboard all the time. She's never had an issue with people coming too close to her and she about capsizing. So I'm more concerned about speedboats that are going by with skiers. And I'm not asking you to restrict that. So I really don't think the safety issue is the issue at hand here. I think the issue are some of the environmental things. And if these boats are out in the middle where it's deep enough, I think it's a non-issue. I think that needs to be given more time. I think people, the don't shred in the red rules are excellent. I didn't know they existed until my representative told me. So I think if people are asked to sign an affidavit at the time that they get the license so that they're clear on what the rules are, you've got good people on this lake. They want to get along with everybody. I think they'll abide by them. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Steve Freeman. I'm District 4. We live in the central North Shore, so I see a lot of what goes on in the lake. Oddly, today, about 3:30, when the lake was fairly calm, a wake surfer went by our house. And I don't have rangefinders. I don't know exactly how far it was out, but I think it was probably about 500 feet off the shore. So having heard a lot of the strong impact that the wake gets generated and how it affects the shore, I stood there and waited. In fact, I made a video. And what happened after about 8 to 10 minutes, I could detect a little bit of wake coming in. And then I watched for another 20 minutes and actually recorded it. And I really saw no more wake coming in from the wake boat. Shortly thereafter, a fisherman who was fishing nearby on a bass boat took off full power, and he was about 50 feet beyond the buoy. And the wake that he generated became much more intense than what that wake boat did. So I think some of it has to do with how close you are to the shore. I think it has to do with how many boats are out. Do we have any idea on how many wake boats are out at one time? I think the most I've ever counted is maybe 3 or 4 boats on a Saturday or Sunday. Weekdays, maybe that's the only boat I've seen. Of course, it's early in the season, but usually it's 1, 2. It's not a huge activity of wake boats going along and close to shore causing a lot of destruction. I kayak, I paddleboard, I sail, we have pontoon boat. I do have a wakeboard boat that gets used maybe 4 or 5 days out of the year when the grandkids come. But I'm very concerned about making a precedent where we're talking about actually banning any particular watercraft. I remember years ago, people talked about banning jet skis off the lake. So I think if we start a precedent of that, especially if it's not
a large group of people that are doing it, I think that makes a danger, because larger boats, pontoon boats that are now tri-pontoons, they have 300 horsepower pushing them. You put 8 or 10 people on a tri-toon with that type of engine, they generate a lot of wave action. When I tubed our kids, they love air, so, you know, in our little 20-foot runabout, we'd go in circles and we'd generate huge waves, so the kids could jump over it. So it's not just the weight that generate the wave action. The thing is that it's usually confined to about noon to maybe 5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. So it's the activity that's going on then at that time. Is that causing erosion to our shoreline? Is it causing damage to our boats? I think those are things that we need to look at carefully and kind of monitor. But I do like the idea of having restricted area, restricted times.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes,
were you the one running against Mr. Warner?
I was.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Doug Metzger. I've been on the lake since 1970. I'm not that old. It was my parents' house at that point in time, but I've owned a house on the lake for 26 years. We've seen more damage in the last 3 years than we'd seen the previous 52 years from large waves hitting my dock, my lift, and my shoreline. I'm probably one of Steve's better customers right now because he's been able to repair my dock, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and the lift at least 3 times now. So, I mean, there's no question that there is damage that is occurring as a result of larger waves hitting the boats. I'm a big fan of everybody also being able to have fun on the lake and be able to do what they want to do on the lake. But I think we need to look at some restrictions in terms of getting the waves out a little bit further. What I really notice it is if I'm sitting on my dock and a wakeboard boat will come by and it'll be right at the buoy, which last year we talked about the buoy probably need to be scooted out a little bit. I'm not sure it's 200 feet there, but a gigantic wave. I've had waves come over the top of my dock from the boats that are cutting right next to the buoy because I know they want to get smooth water, and I get that. But at the same time, it's causing a lot of property damage, I think, to a lot of us out there. Our shoreline's getting it, my dock's getting it, my lift's getting it, and literally, it's been in the last 3 years that we've seen a lot of this happen.
Now, where are you located?
I am in Lakewood, right next to Steve Pretty's old house. Steve Pretty's house, if you know. So I think everybody knows Steve's house probably, right? You know, so I'm the house just west of there.
Well, you're kind of outside of the area that you're shown on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that would probably help, because really the damage we're getting is when I see the boats come right next to the buoy, because the wave just does not have time to dissipate at that point in time. I mean, literally, I'm getting 2 and 3 foot waves hitting the back of my boat, hitting my dock, and then hitting the shoreline right there. And I think it's kind of an etiquette thing. If you're gonna be on one of those boats, you know, maybe we should, if we put a little encouragement for people to be out further and actually probably not cruise by without nobody behind the boat and still have their ballast in, you know, I mean, which is part of the problem too. They're cruising by with the ballast still in, with these gigantic waves coming off and there's nobody behind the boat. I mean, you see a lot of that. So just pump the ballast out. That's why you got a button on there. And I think it might solve a lot of the issue too.
You have to build drain ballast.
Not correct, yeah, that's it.
Well, they're doing it. I'm telling you, there's gigantic waves coming off those things.
That's the education piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you told me you can drive without the ballast in? You have to put it on.
Majority of the time, the ballasts aren't filled.
Yeah.
How would you know?
How do you know that
How
there's
would you
somebody-
know that they are?
By the way, they're sitting in the lake.
Oh.
I mean, literally, the back of the boat is 6 inches, and it's you know, those boats are very tall, and I see 6 inches of boat back there, a gigantic.
Doesn't look any different than when they're surfing.
All right,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's slower. We have Phil.
My name is Jay Brandt. Mr. Mesker, I'm your neighbor on the other side of the Pretties.
Oh, great.
Moved in August, and thank you very much. And I wouldn't dispute any of the things you just said. What I can tell you is we own a wake boat. It is part of the reason we moved, or we sought out a lake house, and it's the reason we did not pick Sweetwater, just for the record, which is an incredibly narrow lake that I do not feel safe even having my kids towed on a tube. So not sure that's exactly apples and oranges. In your case, any damage you have, I would be experiencing. And as a surfer and a wakeboarder, I can tell you that that part of the lake produces a terrible wave. So whoever is doing this is poorly educated on both lake etiquette and what you're supposed to be doing with the boat. So that's unfortunate to hear. What I would just ask the board is, I think it is very apparent that in this room, we have a lot of people that have done their own research that supports their own cause. And I think in the political world today, that's kind of common, right? I've done my research, and the research that I have found supports my cause. So I'm not going to bother you with that today. But I would hope, Mr. Carlson, you have a presentation that supports your cause, and your cause is protecting the lake, and I appreciate that. I think you mentioned you're going to be posting other data that has been brought to you, and I hope you do that, and I hope the board takes time to read each of those. But what I would hope for is, we know we have a problem. I hope we can take smaller steps in trying to fix the problem than just an outright ban or a moratorium. I think that's dangerous. I feel it is unfair, and I think that through education and marketing of that information to users, anybody entering the lake, I think we can make a big difference. I am empathetic to anyone in the room that has been on a kayak, has been in a ski boat, any of the sort who has been disrupted by this stuff. But I do believe that we can coexist. I'm a rule follower, and when I'm out on the water, I try and do that. I can tell you that red area, that is the only area that you can produce a good surf wave. I don't like leaving that area. I love seeing the rowing team out there, especially in the morning, like having coffee. I love it. I don't want to mess your lake up. I don't want to put anyone in danger. So I think a little bit of policing of the lake and training can go a long way. And I just ask the board that we take baby steps before we ban something outright.
You said you had a fear of a moratorium. What is the fear? I mean, I want to make sure everyone understands what they mean by a moratorium, that,
Yeah.
no new boats, but you're already there and you've got yours and you wouldn't be affected.
Yeah, correct. I guess regarding, an activity I love doing with my kids and friends and family, I have a newer boat. Something goes wrong with it and I need to get a new one, and now what am I can't.
Well, I guess would the moratorium be on the kind of the license, or,
That's a good question, actually. I would love clarification on that from the board, how that's
Yeah,
written.
the way it was written, it was basically on that boat, so you go get a new boat, you
can't
use it there. Let me ask you a question. Would you have bought your place on the lake if there was restrictions with regard to wake surfing?
I would not have.
Yeah, my son-in-law that does a lot of it, just counseled, his opinion on it was property values, and we have to consider what property values
I
are.
have that written in my notes, but I thank you for bringing that up.
Well, let me focus on the restrictions. I mean, what if it was allowed, but with times and locations? Would you still have come here?
That's a bit circumstantial. That's a good question. I can tell you that my interest in being on the lake or on the water, regardless if I'm surfing or tubing or doing anything, is when there's the least amount of boats out there possible. So being restricted to the middle part of the day,
When everybody's out there.
yeah, is scary. And I don't want to be out there. The waves that I experience in the middle part of the day with the tubing traffic, which I'm all for, again, like you want to turn circles and all that stuff, that's fun. I'm too old for that. But I don't want to be out there for it. What I do try and do is go later in the day, early in the morning. I love weekdays, and I try and stay away from people.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody fishing, I love fishing. I don't want to knock somebody out of their boat. I don't know if I just answered your question. I kind of ranted.
Thank
Sorry.
Thank you.
What was his name?
Jay Brandt.
Jay Brand, I'm gonna look for you on the lake.
Sir.
My name is Greg Sutton. My wife and I, Lisa, have lived on the lake since '98 in District 1. We've always enjoyed, we came here for water sports as the last gentleman. Been doing it ever since. We have a surf boat. We just got one last year. Now, I hate to see bad decisions made through misinformation and bad data. I've been copied on several emails sent to, apparently, I think you, Ross, from the guy named Lee Gatz. And he's Vice President of Government Affairs for the Water Sports Industry Association. So of course, he's going to be pro water sports. But in his email, he references several studies. And in this one here, there are 5 attachments at the bottom. Now, can you make sure that the people voting on this see these attachments
Yes,
with the data involved?
yes.
Okay, I would just like to make sure that happens. I can't print all these out with my little home printer. But you need to be safe about it. Staying in the middle of the lake where the water is deeper, like you said, the waves don't produce a good shape if you're in shallow water. So most people I've ever seen are out in the middle as much as they can be to be, away from the shorelines. And, usually you want to go in a straight line. You don't go in circles because you need the wave to stay uniform. But I just wanted to make sure that I've been copied on several emails and some to Adam, and there's been some correspondence here, that information gets to everyone that's going to be voting on this.
I just spoke with him, I think yesterday, and we got an email
I saw
this
that in the
morning.
email. Yeah, I said you guys had talked.
The 2 studies that a lot of people are referring to, I'm pretty sure I know which ones those are. Those are included in my notes. I really tried on recommendations to stick with university or state-funded studies.
Yeah.
Not getting into
Manufacturers or.
wilderness green fire studies or manufacturing studies. I
Right,
just
and
tried to-
these aren't manufacturing studies.
Okay.
No.
I know there's the one in northern Indiana on a lacustrine Kettle Lake that took place.
Yeah, there's several others in there that are based on scientific research, not misinformation.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think, I agree with the last gentleman that spoke, every time we go out during the week, when there's not a lot of traffic and, I see the rowers out, we stay completely away, we'll stop. 30 seconds, we'll stop, wait, go the other direction maybe, just stop and wait. We've always been respectful of that and I just don't see the need to put a bunch of restrictions on something with, based on bad information. So.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tina Easton. I'm from District 5. Yes, we own a surf boat, pontoon boat, fishing boat, 2 kayaks. We love the lake. We like to do all sorts of activities on the lake. This is a public lake and it is for all types of water sports. And we need to all get along and we need to learn how to do that, apparently. I'm a firm believer of this. This banning one thing is ridiculous. I personally don't surf. We started surfing with our sons when they were about maybe in 7th grade. And what I want to basically emphasize is we did it. We bought a surf boat to encourage our boys to want to do things with us on the weekends and to do a healthy family activity, okay? Over the years, they've become professionals. And I greatly enjoy sitting in the boat and videoing them and watching them. They've even last year, for the first time, all three of them did it together. Okay? So to have adult children that want to spend the weekends with you, an old person, and do a family activity and not be in a bar drinking or whatever is a huge deal to me as a parent. I've tried to raise respectable men that respect others and aren't, you know, I just have tried to raise good children, okay? So this was one of our tactics to do that. The shoreline erosion control issue, what's been done with the, you know, we started paying these inflated wake boat fees about 3 years ago. And I was told that the reason was you guys were gonna use it to, you know, for erosion control on the lake. I've known that none of that money has been spent for erosion control.
I mean, we haven't raised enough through that fee to
No, it's like
get a
250,
riprap
isn't it,
load
fee?
to the lake.
Okay, but you do have, we are setting aside something for erosion control.
You know how much has been paid to that fee.
Okay,
I mean,
and we don't mandate homeowners to have erosion control, correct? So maybe that might be a tactic toward erosion or toward, you know, addressing the erosion, shoreline erosion. Maybe everybody on the lake has to have riprap or some kind of erosion control. I'm just saying, you guys, we need to open up our minds here, people, open up our minds, because I kayak along South Shore, almost, you know, in the summertime nightly. And I will tell you, there are a lot of properties that do not have any erosion control. So if that's a big deal, there are ways we can address the erosion control. The only other thing I wanted to mention about this time of day limitations, you know, we try, I think several people have mentioned, we try to avoid other people when we surf. So we want to do it later in the 4th of July weekend, that weekend, everything. We wait till all the crazies are off the lake. That's when we want to go out. Okay? So if you're gonna put time constraints on wake surfing, then you better put some time constraints on airboats. That's all I gotta say about that. I have had it with airboat man. I mean, completely had it with him.
I just want to make one comment. I think that a lot of people try to avoid the busyness of the weekends. I mean, we don't even, you know, we just got a pontoon boat, but we don't take our grandkids out. I mean, it's just dangerous. I mean, there's too many jet skis, too much out there. So most of us try to avoid that.
My name is Doug Lathry. I'm from District 3. I own a wake boat and bought a house on Lake Lemon because it's an all sports lake. I'm also a licensed real estate broker in Indianapolis. I wholeheartedly believe that limiting our lake with any kind of restrictions, such as wake boats, wake surf boats, is going to impact property's value. There's no study for it. I don't have scientific data that we can all debate whether it's this way or that way. However, you just heard another gentleman speak that he didn't buy a property on Sweetwater because no wake boats. My wife and I did the same thing. So we wanted it all wake, or excuse me, all sport lake, and that's why we purchased it. As far as, you know, debating back and forth if we're doing damage, I definitely agree with the last lady. I think it would be a great idea to put erosion control on all the shorelines. That would obviously go a long ways to protecting our lake. I too want to protect our lake. I don't want to see it go away. I don't want to see damage done to it. You guys posted the map of the red area. That's the only places we're surfing. Anybody that knows anything about surfing, you want the deeper water. The gentleman spoke earlier about a boat being close to his buoy. I don't doubt it. It probably drifted over there. I believe you. But that's not where we want to be. We're not looking for the smoothest water. We make our own smooth water. So we don't need that. You know, I'm sorry that you've got damage to your dock. I hate that. I don't want to see that. But as far as like the kayakers, the paddle boarders, the row team, all of that, we try to avoid it. And the reality is, it doesn't matter if it's a tubing boat, skiing boat, fishing boat, a tri-tune, 26-foot tri-tune with 300 horsepower motor on it. If you're on a paddle board, a kayak, anything like that, you're affected by those just as well. So putting time restrictions, you're still gonna have those issues if you're on a paddleboard or kayak. The other boats make just as much wake in some cases. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Johnny Goss. I live on North Shore. First of all, thank you for your time. I know you guys put a lot of work in this. You've certainly got a lot of people engaged in the conversation, which I think we should take advantage of, because I think this lake has lots of challenges. I think the challenges are septic. It's beer, Big Blossom Lake. It's sediment coming in. It's dredging strategy, financing for dredging. We have big issues, okay? I don't know, I don't think, and I've got kayaks, I've got paddleboards, I've got a pontoon, I got too many boats, frankly. But I will tell you, you know what my kids want to do? They don't want to ski like we used to. They want to wakeboard. My son did last summer we did a vacation. We ended up on the Lake Powell. You know what they want to do? Wakeboard. Did a 360, first one he did here. They were practically was deeper than here. We don't want to. You're right. We want to be in that area. You know, the ski, the red. And I think some people don't realize that. But enforcement is something we can use. I take a little bit. I mean, I had a dock. I had to replace my entire dock and lift systems. I mean, huge expense. Fortunately, insurance covered it. You know what? It wasn't docked. It wasn't wet. It was ice. Okay. It was and it's wind. I sent you guys a study, and again, I know there's studies all over the place, but this is I don't know that we've got any data which supports that wakeboards or wake boats do any more damage than Mother Nature. I think I sent you guys this. I don't know if you read it or not, but in order to, according to the frequency of wake boat passes required to match the erosive forces of 10 to 20 mile per hour wind at 110 feet from the shore ranges from every 270 seconds to as often as 23 seconds. Considering wake boats, we're only out here 4 months a year, generally on the weekends. It's nothing near that. So I think there's a good argument that the natural Mother Nature poses much risk. We spend a lot of time talking about Sweetwater, Lake Horridge. Come on. They are 1/5, 20% of the size of Lake Lemon. And again, I do think, I'm not a property owner. Okay, at the end of the day, guys, wake surfing is really popular. Okay, and I do think it potentially will impact property values. So I would keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Eberly, District 1, I believe, freeholder. I've been on the lake my entire life. My family has been on the lake for probably a lot longer than most of the individuals in this room. My grandfather set this conservancy up. I'm going to ask that you consider the precedent you are going to set by restricting any use. A few things that you brought up as far as the ballast tanks. I believe fishing boats have ballast tanks, and fishing boats travel to and from lakes at a far higher frequency than wake boats. As far as resedimentation, how can we differentiate resedimentation from wake boats versus what is being done through the dredging? I think that this is a very slippery slope that is going to be very detrimental to the longevity of the lake and how all of the public use the lake. The lake is not for any one group. It is not to bias towards any one group. We should be looking at a common solution. I think everyone who spoke here today from the surf side has been open to a solution for all. Other than that, I think it's It's probably a pretty tough challenge to sit in your seats to find a common solution. But I do think that an outright ban of any style of boat or any activity is absolutely the wrong decision. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's all about there. What?
Somebody shut the lights
Uh,
off.
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so Earl Everly was the vice chairman in 1994 when this district was established. And the district plan that Mr. Warner just took an oath of says for which the district is established. And I encourage all new board members and board members that had not read the district plan to go to page 10 and read section 1. And it says for developing recreational facilities where feasible in connection with beneficial and of the property. Recreation is in there twice. And it's in the district plan almost 15 times. And I don't know, Steve, are you still a lawyer?
That's my son.
Oh, I'm okay, thank you. Well, I stand corrected. But I am for some type of coexisting on this lake with these wake boats. And thank you very much.
Okay. So do we have any additional comments?
Can I ask a question? Like, what is the next steps for you guys? I mean, what is, where does this go? How does it happen?
So, well, we are gonna meet again, but in the meantime, we're gonna send out a survey and maybe Ross could speak to that a little bit more.
I mean, we have a pretty extensive survey where we're trying to get as much feedback as we can on this, and then those results will be shared with the board members.
I guess, I'm
I
really
would
concerned
hope
about.
that for the next board meeting, we would have some sort of thoughts of what the board would like to see happen that we can disseminate prior to that meeting. I know our board meeting packets don't go out to the week before. We've tried with this to get information to people. People change their emails. If you change your email, please change it on our listserv, because if I have your old email, that's where I'm sending it to.
I will encourage you though, do your own research, look at the stuff that we're posting. You know, you have additional thoughts based on that, or if you find something else that's credible though, by the way. Because, you know, I think Ross did kind of talk a little bit about some of, you know, the boat manufacturers, they're gonna say one thing, and the, you know, what was that group, the anti-wake surfing group, whatever, Last Wilderness or something, well, they're on, you know, so, but, you know, stuff from universities and so on, where somebody doesn't have a dog in the fight, that's credible stuff, you know, somebody's blog, and that's just their opinion, you know? And so this would be some time for you guys to look at that. So yes.
I struggled with that as well, though. Like, just because a university did it, I'm not sure that means it's totally impartial.
What
So,
a state.
so, and as far as the Water Sports Association or whatever that is, on their website, just for reference, just as an argument part, I don't know how credible that is. I don't know how credible your information is. I don't know that anyone in this room is qualified to maybe make that argument. And I will tell you, on their website, they also have a video that shows with the potentiometers, like how they did it. It seems credible to me, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it is. The second question I have is about the survey. What is the purpose of the survey? Because is this gonna be something that is sent out to everybody in the lake where they can just tell how much they hate wake boats? Like, is that what's gonna change your mind? Because I was under the impression this was about the environmental aspects of the wake.
Let me offer
It's not
something
my
on that
mind
too.
to change.
How do you guys
For
do this?
starters, the survey is really focusing on area restrictions, timing restrictions, those types of things, not outright bans or.
Who's gonna enforce timing restrictions? I'd really like to know that. We have
Well, we're
no
gonna-
enforcement now.
How you guys
That's a
approach the
problem.
survey?
That's a huge problem.
We have
I wanna say,
budgeted for extra staff.
I
this
wanna
year.
echo what John said earlier. I really appreciate the time that you guys put into this. I appreciate that this isn't an easy thing to arbitrate. But, you know, the United States is a republic. It's not a democracy that majority rules. You know, it's a country of laws, right? If you send out a survey, you want wake boats, yes or not, the majority can overrule the minority. That's not a basis for which you guys can stand. You could send a survey out and ask if all of us on the lake want the people that don't have riprap on their properties to add riprap, and they would get voted that yes, they would have to do that.
I need a method that I can survey our freeholders and disseminate that information to our board so that they can make decisions on how
It's
uses
not
are
it's
made.
not a decision-making, tool. It is just
It's a way for
a way to get our
representatives.
finger on the pulse of, you know, we, obviously the people that made the effort to come here, we're gonna have the strongest feelings, probably. This is just a way to sort of get your finger on the pulse, but it's not gonna be it's not necessarily gonna be a heavily weighted factor in sort of how we look at it. It's just a finger on the pulse type.
Jay also gave you very good advice about moving slow, because I think you could get a lot of feedback from people who are upset with boats for not following rules that they didn't know necessarily existed. So if we do take steps to try to ensure that information is disseminated to everyone and they follow those rules, then a lot of the concerns will dissipate too over time. So I think it's valuable to.
We would like a chance to be
So Les, I think
like,
the question
get the
is,
enforcement
are
on the
we
lake.
going to vote on this at the next meeting?
I'm not planning on a vote.
We need to buy our
I think
registrations,
this is a information gathering time.
I think this has been very helpful.
Something I heard about, Ross, are you a fact finder? I mean, are you throwing out facts? You said you said credible, Les.
Mm-hmm.
I'm challenged by who's determining what's credible and not. So to Jay's point, I think I sent you guys a list. I did a bunch of research the last 2 weeks when this came up. 43 lakes in the state of Indiana. I gave you acreage. I gave you all kinds of information. Only 2 of them have banned this. Are you gonna send that information out, or is that already attached, or is that not credible?
Did I get that?
All the board members got it. I didn't send you to, okay.
Yeah, so I can't answer your question.
Okay, so I think, let's be careful when we start talking about what's credible or not. I will send it to you. I would appreciate you saying that out.
I was trying to find a consensus of rules that most people have agreed upon through scientific research. And both extremes I did not include.
Okay, all right. And the survey, I'm concerned about the survey as well. I mean, I think it's like, you have an oath. I mean, we just, Mr. Bachwell just read it. I mean, I just want to be careful here. I think we should
I
walk
want
slowly.
everybody to have a voice.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to, I think those that are opposed to the moratorium, that side of thing, I think what we want to see a safe lake. We want to see a lake that's taken care of. We want to see people that are abiding by the rules. And I think we want to have a chance. You've got the people in this room right now that are more interested in safe boating, right? Abiding by the rules, not doing the things that people are asking for. We want to help enforce it, right? We want to help bring the awareness up. Because I'm telling you what, when I'm out boating and I'm where I'm supposed to be safely, and there's boats that are coming up right beside me in a pontoon boat, and then cuts right in front of me, that's hard for me I'm trying to be safe, I'm trying to surf in the right place, I'm trying to make sure my waves go away from the shoreline, and that's what takes place. And so I think we can coexist, but we kind of got to work together to find a way that we can go do that. But if we just go ban, or if we just, we send out surveys, it's gonna be like, I don't like the waves. And I think there's a way for us to do
Okay,
this as
so how
well.
about if we say, okay, what do you think about time restrictions? So we've already heard something about that, well, maybe that's not a good idea. Because some people like to go in the morning, whatever, you know,
I
what
think that's
about
what
a designated area on the west side of the lake? Well, is that gonna be okay, or is the people that
I don't
didn't
think
show
it's
up today, are they gonna say, no, I wanna do the east side? You know?
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I think you nailed it.
Not even up there.
be there.
I think you guys,
Dredge another 10
You know
feet,
what,
we
you
will.
guys,
Yeah, okay,
we'll have the staff,
right.
the staff is gonna draft a survey.
You need the facts on
None of you guys, do any of you guys have a wake surf boat?
But
Just show of hands. Does anybody on the board own a wake surf boat?
We sold ours.
So none of you guys have a wake surf boat. That speaks
Mike does.
volumes right there.
Mike's just said yes.
If I could,
Mike does not own it.
and I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of emotion in the room. I mean this with all seriousness. It does scare me, the survey, for the reasons people brought up. It's a matter of opinion that you're gonna get from people. I hope, and I just heard you say you're not sure we vote on it at the next meeting. I think that's a good idea. And I mean this seriously. If you've never been on a wake boat and would like to, I would love to take you.
Love it.
And I will show you from that perspective, not show you how fun it is, that's not the argument. From the perspective of being there, seeing how far it takes for the waves to dissipate, how easy or hard it is to stay away from people at different parts of the lake. I would love to show you that. And then lastly, if anyone finds parts of my dock, let me know because they floated away.
To be clear, I don't have one because my friend Doug takes me. I'm an incredible surfer. I just don't want to spend the money.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, I'm gonna end this meeting. If you have additional comments, email us, okay?
Last thing I do wanna say, the rowing for Young England Club is Saturday. I will be out, Logan will be out on the jet ski. Please do not run, don't surf this Saturday.
Fair enough.
No wait between Riddle and Reed.
Okay, so adjourned.
I'd second that.
Okay. Are we all in agreement? Okay, motion carries, we're adjourned.
There you go. Have to take a chair off.
What? Oh.
For me.
That would be negative for me. Oh, wait, both.